As we continue in our session of endocrinology introduction, this is part 2. There is part 1. If you haven't watched part 1, please first go back and watch part 1. This is part 2 of introduction to endocrinology. And this session, we have seen previously the glands, in which are endocrine glands. But now, we said that hypothalamus is not an endocrine gland, but it controls the master gland, which we call pituitary. So now we want to see which hormones are produced by hypothalamus that control the action of anterior pituitary gland. So we want to look at the hypothalamic anterior axes. These are the ones we are going to look at. So we want to see if we have hypothalamus and we have anterior pituitary gland, and we are going to have the target site. I'm going to have anterior pituitary gland here. Then we shall have the target site. Let me extend them. We're going to have hypothalamus. Shall have anterior pituitary gland. Shall have the target site and the function. So this is what we are going to talk about. We want to see the hormone produced by the hypothalamus and what stimulates in the anterior pituitary. And then we look at the target site where that hormone is going. And lastly, we look at its physiological function. We look at its physiological function. So this is how I want to summarize how hypothalamic hormones control anterior pituitary gland. And the first hypothalamic hormone I can talk about in this session, there is a hormone known as gonadotropin. Gonadotropin releasing hormone. And this gonadotropin releasing hormone, it is produced by the hypothalamus, transported in the blood, and it reaches the anterior pituitary gland, whereby in the anterior pituitary gland we have cells known as gonadotropes. And these gonadotropes, they are the ones that are responsible for secreting hormones like follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. So these are the two hormones produced by the anterior pituitary gland in response to gonadotropin releasing hormone. And this follicle-stimulating hormone, the target site of it is that in female, the target site of follicle-stimulating hormone is ovary, and in male, it is Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells, or you can call them nursing cells. These are cells that take care, that nourishes, that make sure our sperms have eaten, have got nutrients, and they are in good condition. Those are the Sertoli cells. That is for follicle-stimulating hormone. Then for luteinizing hormone, in female, we find it also, its target site is the ovary. Then in male, it is the Leydig cells. Leydig cells of the testis. This is Sertoli cells of the testis. Because the testis has two different types of cells. That is the Sertoli and the Leydig, whereby the Sertoli nurses the sperms, then the Leydig are responsible for production of the androgen. So we are going to see that follicle-stimulating hormone, when it goes to the ovary, which is its target site, in the female, it stimulates oogenesis. Stimulates oogenesis, that is maturation or growth of primordial germ cells. Primordial germ cells. That is in female. Then in the male, when it goes to the Sertoli cell, it stimulates spermatogenesis. Spermatogenesis, that is the formation of sperms. So in general, we are seeing follicle-stimulating hormone targeting maturation of the germ cells, whereby in female it is the primordial germ cells, then in male it is the sperms, and is ensuring their growth. Then the luteinizing hormone, for it in female, it still goes to the ovary, and it stimulates the ovary. One, it stimulates ovulation, that is the release of the Graafian follicle from the ovary at the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. At the 14th of the menstrual cycle, we see a surge in luteinizing hormone triggering the rupture of the ovary together with the Graafian follicle to release a secondary oocyte. So we are seeing luteinizing hormone responsible for ovulation on the 14th day of menstrual cycle. That is the mid-cycle. Then the Leydig cells, whenever luteinizing hormone goes to the Leydig cells, or what we call interstitial cells, it stimulates them to release what we call testosterone. It causes the production of the testosterone. That is its major role, production of androgen, especially testosterone. But another thing I have not told you about luteinizing hormone in female, when it goes to the ovary, it also stimulates the granulosa cells of the maturing oocyte to release a hormone known as estrogen or estrogen. So estrogen in female, then testosterone in male. And apart from that, we shall also see the functions of these hormones. But the function of luteinizing hormone is production of androgens. In male, that is testosterone majorly, then in female, it is estrogen. Then we have seen that in female, it is a principal hormone, whereby luteinizing surge also stimulates the ovulation during 14th day of the menstrual cycle. And this estrogen also does great roles, as we shall see that this estrogen produced is responsible for secondary sex female characteristics, like the smoothening of the voice, the development of the hips and the breasts. Those are done by the estrogen. And this estrogen also is the one that repairs the endometrium, as we shall see. It repairs the endometrium. That is the one that after menses, the uterus has lost its endometrium. So what it does is that this estrogen is like it goes and starts cementing, repairing the lost cells, making sure they come back. That is the role of estrogen, apart from secondary sex female characteristics. Then testosterone is the one that brings about secondary male characteristics, like deepening of the voice, masculinity, growth of the beards is the one that does it. And apart from that, it also works together with FSH for enabling spermatogenesis. That is the function of testosterone. So this is what we call gonadotropin. We call it hypothalamic anterior pituitary gonadoaxis. You can call it that. So this is hypothalamic anterior pituitary gland, gonadal axis. So in an exam of physiology, whenever they ask you to describe the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, this is what you discuss for us. You tell us the gonadotropin hormone, what triggers production of gonadotropin releasing hormone is decreased levels of estrogen and testosterone. When there is low, when there is decrease in estrogen or testosterone in the blood, it is detected by hypothalamus and it is triggered to release gonadotropin hormone. Which gonadotropin hormone triggers gonadotropes in the anterior, release FSH and LH. Then we have seen FSH in the female going to the ovary, then male Sertoli cells, and its major role is maturation of the germ cells. And whenever it is released, then it will increase levels of estrogen and testosterone, and once these levels increase, they exert a negative feedback. They inhibit further production of gonadotropin releasing hormone. So this hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis is the feedback mechanism is what we call negative feedback. That when there is low levels of the androgens, stimulate the hypothalamus release gonadotropin releasing hormone, and it goes into play. When these ones go high, they exert or they inhibit further production. That is what we call negative feedback loop or feedback mechanism. So this is the hypothalamic anterior pituitary gonadal axis. The second one is the thyroid releasing hormone, and this thyroid releasing hormone is triggered by reduced levels. It is triggered by low levels, decreased levels of T4 and T3. That when in the blood saturation there is decrease, that is what we call hypothyroidism. It is going to stimulate the hypothalamus to release the thyroid releasing hormone, and this thyroid releasing hormone, its receptor is found on the thyrotropes. The anterior pituitary gland has cells known as thyrotropes, and these thyrotropes are the ones that release thyroid stimulating hormone. So thyroid releasing hormone attaches on the cells on the thyrotropes and makes them to synthesize and secrete thyroid stimulating hormone. And this thyroid stimulating hormone, the target site is the follicular cells. Please don't say thyroid gland. Follicular cells of the thyroid gland. Of the thyroid. Because we saw thyroid gland, if I can draw it here, it has the follicular cells. These are the follicles inside with the colloid. But another thing, it has also the small cells known as parafollicular. And these parafollicular, they are the ones that are releasing calcitonin, and this one T3 and T4. So always specify whenever you ask. Don't say thyroid gland, say follicular cells of the thyroid gland. And after reaching into the follicular cells, it is the TSH that is going to stimulate the follicular cells to synthesize T4 and T3. T4 is known as the thyroxine. It is known as thyroxine hormone, and it is that 90%, greater than 90% of the thyroid hormone is T4. Then it also secretes T3, which forms like less than 10%. And when this T3 and T4 they are released, they do a couple of functions, like increasing basal metabolic rate, increasing metabolism of proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids. We see this thyroid T3 and T4 doing a big role in increasing growth hormone, in increasing protein synthesis, and many others. So we shall see them under thyroid function tests. So there are many functions of the thyroid, T3 and T4. And this axis is known as hypothalamic anterior pituitary thyroid axis. It is known as hypothalamic anterior pituitary thyroid axis. So whenever in the exams you are asked to describe hypothalamic anterior pituitary thyroid axis, this is what you tell us. That decrease in T4 and T3 stimulates hypothalamus, releases thyroid releasing hormone, which goes to the thyrotropes, causing them to synthesize and secrete TSH. And this thyroid stimulating hormone triggers the follicular cells of the thyroid to synthesize T3 and T4. And when T3 and T4 increase in blood, they come and exert a negative feedback. And hypothalamus stops releasing thyroid releasing hormone. So this is hypothalamic anterior pituitary thyroid axis. Number 3, we have another releasing hormone. The hormone is produced by the hypothalamus. They are called releasing hormones. And this one is called corticotropin. Corticotropin releasing hormone. And this corticotropin releasing hormone is the one that stimulates the corticotropes. In the anterior, we have cells known as corticotropes. These corticotropes, they release a hormone known as adrenocorticotropic releasing corticotrophic releasing hormone. Adrenocorticotropic hormone is the one that is released by the corticotropes of the anterior pituitary gland. After releasing this adrenocorticotropic hormone, its target site is the adrenal cortex. It goes to the adrenal, don't say adrenal gland, be specific. Its target site is the adrenal cortex, as we saw that adrenal has both medulla and cortex. And when it reaches in the adrenal cortex, it is the one that is going to stimulate the adrenal cortex depending on the need to release either glucocorticoids or mineralocorticoids. Whereby mineralocorticoids we saw aldosterone. Then at glucocorticoids we saw guys like cortisol, cortisone are stimulated. So what stimulates the hypothalamus to release corticotropin releasing hormone is low levels of aldosterone, low levels of cortisol, low levels of cortisol. When they are low in blood saturation, they trigger the hypothalamus to release. And this corticotropin releasing hormone goes to the corticotropes within anterior pituitary gland and causes it to synthesize and secrete adrenocorticotropic hormone. And this adrenocorticotropic or corticotropin hormone stimulates the adrenal cortex to synthesize and secrete glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. And these glucocorticoids play a big role in metabolism of nutrients, and we see aldosterone responsible for reabsorption of sodium in the distal convoluted tubule of the kidney. Then these ones are responsible for metabolism of fats and carbohydrates. They control the body metabolism. And when they are produced and they go and they increase in the blood saturation, when they are increasing in the blood saturation, they exert a negative feedback whereby they inhibit hypothalamus from further releasing corticotropin hormone. And this axis, the third axis, is known as hypothalamic pituitary adrenal cortex axis. Hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So whenever you are asked to describe hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, that is what you talk about. You tell us low levels of aldosterone in blood, low levels of cortisol in blood triggers the hypothalamus to release the corticotropin releasing hormone, which goes to the corticotropes in anterior and triggers them to synthesize and secrete adrenocorticotropic hormone. And this hormone, the one that triggers adrenal cortex, that is, these glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. And when these mineralocorticoids and glucocorticoids go high in the blood, they inhibit. And that is what we call negative feedback mechanism of action of hormones. After finishing these three axes, which are the major axes found in the body, we are going to see also hypothalamus producing what we call growth hormone releasing hormone. And this growth hormone releasing hormone, it goes to the somatotropes. The hypothalamus have cells known as somatotropes, and triggers them to release growth hormone. And it is this growth hormone that goes to majorly the liver and other tissues. And its major role is they cause growth of cells. And these cells, at one point, we shall tell you they work through somatobedins, and we shall see how they exert their growth and even metabolism. They are responsible for growth, protein synthesis. They're responsible for metabolism. All these are very important for this growth hormone. Then another hormone produced by the hypothalamus is growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Growth hormone inhibiting hormone. And this growth hormone inhibiting hormone, sometimes we call it dopamine. Not the dopamine we saw being produced by the adrenal gland. This dopamine is a growth hormone inhibiting hormone, and this, actually it is not dopamine, it is known as somatostatin. It is somatostatin. And this somatostatin, which we are calling growth hormone inhibiting hormone, is the one that goes to the somatotropes, the same cells, and triggers them and causes them, or it inhibits. Its major function is it inhibits production of growth hormone. We saw growth hormone releasing hormone stimulating production of growth hormone. But growth hormone inhibiting hormone, which we can call somatostatin, for it inhibits production of growth hormone. So that is when there is no growth needed in the body. Whenever the growth has happened and we no longer need cells to grow, we see growth hormone inhibiting hormone, what we call somatostatin, coming into play to inhibit the anterior from continuing to produce growth hormone. And it is the one that puts it in the balance to prevent what we call gigantism. Gigantism is whereby there is excessive production of growth hormone and you become very tall. That is what we call gigantism. So when you are deficient of this hormone, you can become gigantic. Then number 6, another one we have is prolactin. We have prolactin releasing hormone. And this prolactin releasing hormone is majorly triggered during pregnancy. Whenever we need to manufacture breast milk, especially during pregnancy. So this prolactin hormone is released and goes to the anterior pituitary gland and stimulates the lactotropes. The anterior pituitary gland has lactotropes, and these lactotropes are the one that produce prolactin hormone. So they are triggered by prolactin releasing hormone to synthesize and secrete prolactin hormone. And this prolactin hormone, its target site is the mammary glands. It goes to the mammary gland, or what we call breasts. And this stimulates the mammary gland to produce milk, to synthesize and produce for production of breast milk. That is the function of prolactin. Prolactin triggered by prolactin releasing hormone from hypothalamus going to the mammary glands, stimulating them to synthesize and produce breast milk. That is prolactin. Then lastly is prolactin the last one is prolactin inhibiting hormone. And this prolactin inhibiting hormone, you can also call it dopamine. You can call it dopamine. And it is this dopamine, or what we call prolactin inhibiting hormone produced by the hypothalamus. It is that when it sees there is increased production, an increase in the production of prolactin, and we no longer need it more to produce breast milk, we see the hypothalamus producing dopamine, what we call prolactin inhibiting hormone, which goes to the lactotropes. It goes to the lactotropes of the anterior pituitary gland, and it inhibits further production, inhibits production of prolactin. For it inhibits production of prolactin hormone. So these are basically the hormone, or the hypothalamic hormones we can discuss in this session, whereby we had gonadotropin releasing hormone, thyroid releasing hormone, corticotropin releasing hormone, growth hormone releasing hormone, and growth hormone inhibiting hormone, which we call somatostatin. And somatostatin inhibits production of growth hormone and also thyroid stimulating hormone. So we see somatotropin inhibiting both production of growth hormone and thyroid stimulating hormone. Then prolactin releasing hormone triggered by pregnancy, or when there is need to produce breast milk, producing prolactin hormone, which goes to the breast, or what we call mammary glands, to produce breast milk. And if we don't need more production of breast milk, we see production of dopamine from hypothalamus coming to inhibit further production. So as we go on, we shall see a condition in men, what we call like gynecomastia, whereby there is controllable production of prolactin, whereby hyperprolactinemia is leading to gynecomastia, whereby the male are developing breasts in female. The breasts which are supposed to be in female, they are appearing in male. That is what we call gynecomastia, due to overproduction of prolactin, and the cause is that there is lack of dopamine to check the levels of prolactin. And as we end this video, we want to see, we have seen hormones produced by the hypothalamus and anterior. But what of the functions of hormones produced by the posterior pituitary gland? And we saw posterior pituitary gland, for it was producing antidiuretic hormone, what you can call vasopressin, and was producing also oxytocin. So I want to summarize them here. So we are saying posterior pituitary gland we said it does not synthesize, it stores. For it is responsible for storing. Stores, whereby we said it stores hormone like oxytocin and hormone like antidiuretic hormone, or what we call vasopressin. We said antidiuretic is produced by the supraoptic nerves, and this one is produced by the paraventricular nerves. Paraventricular nerves. And whenever they are released, we are seeing this oxytocin doing a great work, whereby in female it goes to the endometrium or uterine walls. It goes to the uterus and stimulates labor. So it is the one that stimulates labor during parturition or during giving birth, whereby it goes to the smooth muscles of the uterus and stimulates the uterus to begin contracting and the cervix. So it goes to the uterus and cervix, leads to the opening of the cervix and the contractions of the uterus. At the same time, it is the one that enables contractions, it enables movement of sperms, that during sexual intercourse, after the man has ejaculated, oxytocin causes contractions of the vaginal muscle, which enables to propel the sperms to the final destination where there is the oocyte, that is in the oviduct. So the movement of sperms from the vagina through the uterus, then to the fallopian tube, is potentiated by oxytocin. Then another one in the female, we see it during the menstrual cycle. Not during the menstrual cycle. No, we see it during breastfeeding. That is the one that enables milk ejection. Milk ejection. We saw prolactin enabling production, but this one is milk letdown. It is the one that when the baby suckles the nipple, it is the one that is stimulated to cause more milk letdown. So we see in females causing labor by going to uterus and cervix, enabling propulsion of sperms towards the oviduct, and also milk ejection during breastfeeding. Then in male, this oxytocin, it goes into the vas deferens of the penis, and it is the one that enables ejaculation. So without oxytocin, a man might fail to ejaculate, because this is the oxytocin that goes to the smooth muscles of the penis, that is in the vas deferens, and enables production of sperm during sexual intercourse. That is function of oxytocin: ejaculation, labor, propulsion of sperms, and milk ejection. Produced by the paraventricular nerves of the hypothalamus, stored in the posterior pituitary gland. And this hormone acts not on negative feedback mechanism, but it works under what we call positive feedback mechanism, whereby in a positive feedback mechanism, an increase in the deviation from the norm causes a further increase. For example, whenever a baby starts to suckle the nipple, it causes production of oxytocin. But the more the baby continues to suckle, the more the oxytocin is produced to bring more milk. That is what we call positive feedback mechanism. So we see this one working under what we call positive feedback mechanism loop. Then finally, it is antidiuretic hormone, what we call vasopressin. This vasopressin, its target site is the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct of the kidney nephron, and it is the one responsible for the absorption of water. But if more water is needed, a decrease in water in the body is detected by the chemoreceptors, which send impulses to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus synthesizes and secretes antidiuretic hormone, which is stored in the posterior and is released from posterior to the distal convoluted tubule and the collecting duct of the kidney, causing more reabsorption of water. and hence causing reservation. Thank you so much for listening to Medical Sciences Made Easy. Please always remember to subscribe if you haven't. Like the video and share your comments. We shall always be there for you. Thank you so much.